John Kasich says that those supporting the Texas legal challenge against the battleground states before the Supreme Court are morally and ethically bankrupt. President Trump and 18 other states stepped forward to join the Texas effort. Plus, now the media stepped forward to cover the Hunter Biden story. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Friday. I hope you had a great week. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with politics, because if you've had experience in politics, you know there are indicators out there. There are indicators that tell you if you're on the right track. If conservatives are happy, that's a good indicator. Your policies are probably going in the right direction. If the media start to attack, if they get all freaked out because of your policies, you're probably doing the right thing. Those are good indicators. But I found one that's even better. I call it the RINO meltdown meter. And that's when you have rhinos, Republicans in name only, like Mitt Romney, starting to freak out, starting to make comments, then you know you're on the right track. If you're wondering if President Trump's policies are going in the right direction, just see what Mitt Romney's saying, or the Lincoln Project. If they're blasting Trump, it's probably a good thing. Here's another one. Here's another one in that group whose meltdown meter is going through the roof, and that is John Kasich. You know, the guy who loves to say, I'm a Republican, but I'm an American first. That's why I'm voting for Joe Biden, who is corrupt, who is staffing his not-to-be administration with holdovers from the Obama administration, corruption after corruption. This is who John Kasich wants to pick. Well, now he's on the attack for this Texas legal challenge and all the people, all the states that have joined in on it. He was on CNN, of course, talking to Chris Cuomo. Here's how Cuomo started things off.
Not since the Red Scare have once good men and women been dragged into this kind of sabotage of our democracy and social norms. What do you say to these attorneys general?
Wow, not since the Red Scare have we seen this kind of sabotage of our democracy. That's what he's saying. They don't want you to question the left-wing narrative at all. Nothing there. Don't say anything. Just move along. Just fall in line. That's what they want us to do. All these irregularities, all these affidavits, all these people who have come forward with eyewitness accounts, they want to just push it aside. And yet, this is the time to hear those people, to push these legal challenges. No one's talking about using the military. No one's talking about a coup, unless, of course, you're talking about the Democrats, the media, the left, big tech, polling, all of these people, all of these organizations that got together to bury stories and promote Joe Biden rather than being fair and reporting the news and letting people decide. That was Cuomo. Here's Kasich's response.
I can't believe what I am seeing in our country. These Republican leaders, and think about this, 18 attorney generals across our country, members of Congress, you just were talking about the Republican leader. You know, I've just become convinced that these leaders are morally and ethically bankrupt.
By the way, John, it's attorneys general, but whatever. Listen to this guy. These supporters, he's saying, are morally and ethically bankrupt. You know, like when big tech blocks the Hunter Biden story from the New York Post, won't even let you share it. You mean like that, John? You mean like when the media bury stories and attack President Trump over and over and over again and only paint that narrative? You mean like when polling is so out of whack that it says that Wisconsin is going to go by 17 points for Joe Biden, and yet it's a dead heat right now when you don't even factor in all of these charges? You mean like that? It's absolutely nuts. And here's more.
I don't know how they can look in a mirror. I'm flabbergasted about this. I mean, these are attorney generals. These are people who are in a position to be able to uphold the law. And for them to be joining into something like this.
Just a note for John Kasich, it's the states of Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin who did not uphold the law. There are laws on the books that they blatantly disregarded, that they violated, that they broke in order to push more ballots for Joe Biden, to push Joe Biden across the finish line. Kasich is lecturing us on upholding the law, And these 4 states broke their own laws. That's all that this challenge is about. And he lectures us about upholding the law. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Kasich went to his go-to line.
And Chris, the reason why my heart's bleeding is, I've been a Republican all of my lifetime, but I'm an American first. And what I see happening here are the people who are supposed to be the shepherds and lead the flock in the right direction. These are shepherds who are not treating the flock right. The flock is scattered.
What? Shepherds that lost their way? That doesn't even make sense. Perhaps he hasn't seen the polling that show that the voters in general, Republicans in particular, think something was wrong. They want to see this through. Do the legal challenges. If all of those fail, then we inaugurate a new president. If they're successful, then we have President Trump. But see it through. That's what the American people want. But when Kasich is lecturing us on I'm an American first, what he really means is, hey, put those pesky, annoying conservative values, just put those in the closet, fall in line with the establishment, and be quiet. That's what he's saying. So next, let's talk about Texas and the Supreme Court. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. We're making our push for 150,000 subscribers, and we can do it with your help. All right, now the update. Texas put this case before the Supreme Court. President Trump and 18 states have joined in. They have joined in to support this effort. 6 states are now equal with Texas in pushing this, not just being supportive, but actually signed onto the case against Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. These battleground states where things went so screwy in certain cities, and all of a sudden went from huge Trump leads to so-called Biden victories. It's absolutely nuts. Here's an update from Newsmax, but pay attention to the wording because it is an Associated Press story, and I'll point out some of the particular wording that they use that drives the narrative home. But here's the story. 4 U.S. states that President Donald Trump lost in the November 3rd election on Thursday began to file court papers opposing a long-shot Republican-backed lawsuit filed by Texas at the Supreme Court seeking to undo Joe Biden's victory. Officials from Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin already have called the lawsuit, which aims to throw out the voting results in 4 states, a reckless attack on democracy. The Supreme Court gave 4 states a 3 p.m. deadline to file court papers in the case. Pennsylvania was the first to file, with the state's Democrat Attorney General Josh Shapiro saying that the Texas lawsuit was adding to a cacophony of bogus false claims about the election. See, classic Associated Press. They push these narratives about attacking a democracy, undoing Joe Biden's victory, all of these words to plant the narrative that Joe Biden is the rightful winner already, and we shouldn't even be challenging this. Any challenge goes against what the left, what the media say is true, and it's just ridiculous. And here's more. The lawsuit is supported by Trump and 17 other states, 18 now. The Republican president has falsely claimed he won re-election and has made baseless allegations of widespread voting fraud. State election officials have said they found no evidence of such fraud. The lawsuit itself does not make specific fraud allegations, instead focusing on changes made by the 4 states to voting procedures amid the coronavirus pandemic to expand mail-in voting. Texas said those changes removed protections against fraud and were unlawful when the reforms were made by officials in the 4 states or courts without the approval of the state legislatures. So, don't you just love that first paragraph? I mean, baseless claims, false accusations, on and on. That's what they do. They don't interview the witnesses. The witnesses are never interviewed, but some election official they quote as saying there was no fraud. And yet you have all these eyewitnesses. Funny how they never make it into the newspaper, never make it into these reports. Jim Jordan, representative from Ohio, was on Newsmax. He was talking about this case. He was talking about the craziness, the irregularities that we saw in this election with Trump getting so many more votes than last time, more votes than when he first ran. That's always an indicator that the incumbent president is going to get reelected. Jordan pointed that out and more.
We win 27 of the 27 toss-up races the Republicans do in the House of Representatives. President Trump wins 19 of the 20 bellwether counties around the country, increases his vote with Hispanic Americans, African Americans, but somehow Joe Biden, who hung out in his basement, who would have a rally and get 55 people when the president would have a rally and get 55,000 people, somehow Joe Biden gets 80 million votes and wins. He gets 12 million more votes than Barack Obama did. So nothing squares with what we know and historically what's happened.
All right, so that's Jim Jordan. That's our update on Texas and the Supreme Court. So next, we're going to talk about staying on this corruption in the media. They are finally covering Hunter Biden. But first, because we're near Christmas, I've got to tell you about my friends over at World Fair. If you have a photograph of a house or a stadium or a specific particular building from your alma mater, World Fair can turn it into a handmade work of art. I have these drawings of every home I've ever lived in. It's a great conversation piece. And again, this would make a great Christmas gift. Just go to the World Fair link in the description. Use coupon code Bobby13 for 10% off. All right, let's talk about the media. They are corrupt. They buried this Hunter Biden story so that no bad news would come out against Joe Biden before the election. That is just criminal, folks. Well, guess what? Now they're deciding to cover it. Now they're deciding to talk about the DOJ investigation against Hunter Biden. And here's the story. The mainstream media appear to be finally taking Hunter Biden seriously, at least now that his father has already won, presumably, the presidential election. In the final weeks of the campaign, there was an unprecedented media blackout of the explosive reporting from the New York Post that shed light on Hunter Biden's questionable business dealings overseas. On Wednesday, Biden-Harris transition announced that his tax affairs were being investigated. So, the New York Post broke this Hunter Biden story nearly 2 months ago. People stepped forward, eyewitnesses, talking about it, very credible, with evidence, emails, texts, documents, contracts, voice memos, you name it, all the evidence was there. The media buried it. Big tech would not let you even share the story. And now they're talking about it. But how much time are they actually giving it? Here's more. All three major networks' evening newscasts addressed the controversy, with NBC Nightly News spending the most time on the subject, clocking in at roughly 1 minute, 16 seconds of coverage, while CBS Evening News came in a distant second with roughly 45 seconds of coverage, followed by ABC's World News Tonight with roughly just 30 seconds. CNN anchor Jake Tapper reported the breaking news as it happened during his program, which was quite the opposite tone that he took during the election when he dismissed the allegations against Hunter Biden as too disgusting to repeat on air. Too disgusting. I'm not going to report real news because it's so disgusting it may hurt the guy that I want to win. That's today's media. That's today's left-wing media. Tucker Carlson was all over this story, folks, and he talked about how the media buried this so it would not affect Joe Biden.
The investigation is based in part on suspicious activity reports on foreign transactions. Now, keep in mind, in the weeks before the election, you were not allowed to go on Twitter or Facebook and discuss those suspicious foreign transactions. You couldn't talk about them even after Hunter Biden's business associates, people like Tony Bobulinski, came forward in public with evidence that those were real.
Yep. And why wasn't it covered? Because someone might actually change their vote because of it. They might see the story and say, you know what? I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden. Surveys have already come out. There is a sizable chunk of people who voted for Joe Biden that, had they known this story, would have changed their vote. Enough to change the elections in these battleground states without even going through these legal challenges. All people needed to know was the information, and that's why the media buried it. And so next, since we're talking about Hunter and Joe Biden and media corruption, it's a perfect opportunity to ask them and ask all the left, do you have a relaxed brain?
I got what you call, a relaxed brain.
First, how about Ilhan Omar? Now we have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's already using capitalism to promote socialism with her tax the rich sweatshirts that are $60. Well, Ilhan Omar's trying to outdo her with this. F around and find out. Wow, what is with these people? She is just, and the whole squad, they're just so gross. I mean, they're just nasty. And speaking of AOC, she actually received top recognition, a major award this week. Robert Unanue, who is the CEO of Goya Foods, he was speaking on the podcast and he announced that AOC was their Employee of the Month. And here's the story. Goya CEO Robert Unanue referred to Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as the company's Employee of the Month, claiming that the Congresswoman's July tweets about making her own adobo boosted sales. When she boycotted us, our sales actually increased 1,000%, Unanue said during a radio interview with the Michael Berry Show on Monday. She got Employee of the Month for bringing attention to Goya and our adobo, he added, referring to the company's popular seasoning mix. So, of course, as noted by the in-depth reporting over at the Babylon Bee, this recognition has greatly increased AOC's influence. Nation CEOs beg Ocasio-Cortez to start a boycott against them. I love it. I absolutely love it. That's AOC, and that's Relaxed Brain. Folks, that's our show for today, but I want to give you, before we close, a special thank you. Just thank you for tuning in, because today, this show marks our 300th episode. 300 episodes of the 13-minute news hour. We continue to grow. We reached our goal of 100,000 subscribers, 100K by Election Day. Let's keep growing. Please help spread the word, but mostly, thank you for tuning in. So, before you go, please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified, and we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is the 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.